With Monster Hunter World Iceborne comes Master Rank, a challenge that will test every hunter, but with the right gear and builds, hunters can overcome anything. I'm Darcblade, and we are back with even more amazing builds for Monster Hunter World Iceborne. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at beginner builds for the Charge Blade. The Charge Blade is a heavy weapon capable of many tasks. It's able to tank, deal out damage, and more. With its file system, whether you're going for elemental files or impact files, damage is assured when using this weapon. Now, a disclaimer for this series though, as Iceborne is still young, most hunters have not been able to farm everything they need for most high-end game builds. So this series will instead focus on full set builds, highlighting some of the amazing armor designs, while at the same time helping new Iceborne hunters get to the end of the main story. As a result, these builds will not feature Elder Dragon loot, and most of the customizations with them come in the form of different jewels, charms, and weaponry. Additionally, like I said, these builds are aimed at getting hunters through the main story of Monster Hunter World Iceborne, and thus the weaponry and armor may not be completely maxed out or have the best augmentations on them. So, the first build I use is the RATHIAN Poison build. This build is a little bit of a jack of all trades, coming with high survivability and decent DPS. Thanks to having impact files and being able to poison an enemy, you are guaranteed to deal damage regardless of a monster's weaknesses. So for this build, I'm using the complete RATHIAN beta set. So that's the RATHIAN Helm beta, RATHIAN Mel beta, RATHIAN Vambraces beta, RATHIAN Coil beta, and the RATHIAN Greaves beta. I'm also using an artillery charm free, and for my weapon, I'm using the Deer Rosetta Charge Blade, which is found in the RATHIAN tree. Now, as for the jewels, before we get into this, I do understand that a lot of you may not have the same amount of jewels that I have here, but most of these builds do work regardless of the jewels, unless I say otherwise. So for the jewels I've gone for Tenderizer jewels to max out weakness exploit, an Iron Wall and attack jewel to give us that guard skill as well as a little bit of an attack boost. This is really a byproduct. To be honest, going for the Iron Wall jewel is really what you need to do. I've gone for Charger jewels, one of which has a bonus vitality point attached to it. This gives us the focus skill as well as adds to our health boost skill. We'll have a magazine jewel, which is kind of necessary. I know they're a little bit of tricky to get, but they give you the capacity boost skill. I've gone for a sharp jewel to provide us with that protective polish, and finally I've gone for a venom jewel to max out our poison attack. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which will be 200 health when you're on a hunt if you've taken all your relevant consumables. You have an attack of around 1001 with white sharpness, 10% affinity, which is actually 60% so long as you're going for monster weak points, and they've been tenderized. You have a poison rating of 520 with impact files, and you'll have a decent defense that's strong against fire but fairly weak to thunder and dragon. Also remember, when it comes to the stats here, they will differ depending how far you've got with upgrading the weapons as well as your armor. For the majority of this series, just assume that they can potentially go higher, as not everything has been augmented yet. As for the skills, you'll have the following. You'll have Poison Attack level 4, increasing the effectiveness of the poison portion of our attack. You have Health Boost level 3, increasing our maximum health to that potential 200. You have Recovery Up level 3. Recovery Up increases how much we heal through healing methods, so taking potions and that. You have Weakness Exploit, which gives us an increase to our affinity when we go for monster weak points. At level 3 it's 30%, but should you tenderize a monster's body part first, it can go up to 50%. You have Artillery level 3, which increases the damage of our impact files. You have Focus level 2. It would have been nice to get this higher, but level 2 is fine. Focus basically decreases how long it takes for our Charge Blade files to charge up. You have Poison Resistance level 1, a byproduct of the gear, but can be useful in terms of defense. Attack Boost level 1, this is a byproduct. You don't really need this in this build, to be honest. It was connected to the jewels I've used. You have Capacity Boost level 1, increasing our overall maximum files by 1. You have Guard level 1, increasing our block capabilities, and with a charged up shield. Guard level 1 plus your charged shield allows you to block pretty much most attacks and then follow it up with a guard reaction. Your Botanist level 1, a byproduct of the gear, but is kind of useful when you're picking up herbs. Your Protected Polish level 1, which allows us to put a protective buff over our sharpness gauge when we sharpen our weapon, preventing any sharpness loss for a small duration of time. And you'll have the set bonus RATHIAN's Essence Poison Duration Up, which increases how long a monster remains poisoned. So as you can see, like I said, it is a little bit of a jack of all trades. It can guarantee damage thanks to the damage of its impact files being maxed out thanks to the artillery skill, and on top of that, being able to poison a monster means that you don't always have to worry about going for monster weak points and that. Nonetheless, with this build having maxed out weakness exploit, you can also make use of the Charge Blade in Savage Axe form by taking advantage of that increase to your affinity. On top of that as well, it does have decent survivability thanks to having the health boost and recovery up, making this a fun build to use regardless of the monster you're fighting. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Water Elemental build. This is more of a DPS focused build, utilising the water element. Thanks to the weapon we're using, we have power elemental files, which means that we don't have to necessarily invest in artillery. So for this build, I've gone for the Jira armor set, which is the JYURATODUS armor set. I've gone for the Helm Beta, Mail Beta, Vambraces Beta, Coil Beta and Greaves Beta. I've also got the Handicraft Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Deep Terror 2. As for your jewels, I've mostly gone for DPS ones here. I've gone for a magazine jewel for that capacity boost, Tenderizer jewels to max out weakness exploit, stream jewels to add to our water rating, a sharp jewel for protective polish, charger jewel to max out focus, and vitality jewels to max out our health boost. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which again, like I said, will be 200 health when you're on a hunt and you've taken all the relevant consumables. You'll have an attack of 990 with white sharpness, no affinity, although this will actually be potentially 50% so long as you're going for monster weak points and you've tenderized them first. You have a water rating of 530 with power element files, with a decent defense, especially against ice and water, but you're fairly weak to thunder and fire. The skills you have water attack maxed out at level 6, increasing the damage of our water attacks, health boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, focus level 3, handicraft level 3, handicraft increases the sharpness of whatever weapon we're using. You have ice resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear, but can be useful when it comes to defense. You have latent power level 2, again a byproduct of the gear, but when it does kick in, when latent power does activate, which occurs after a set amount of time battling a monster, you'll have increased affinity and stamina regeneration. You also have capacity boost at level 1 and protective polish level 1. So there you have it. As you can see, this is a straightforward elemental build utilising the water element, which means of course you have to take into account a monster's weakness. But should a monster be weak to water, this build is great to use against them. On top of that, because power element charge blades don't consume files as quickly when in Savage Axe form, it means that you can make use of that mode a lot more than with impact files. Nonetheless though, this is a great demonstration of some of the builds out there, some of the full sets that actually come with quite a few skills and seem to suit different weapons. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is a bit of a quirky build, which is the Offensive Guard build. This is a build focusing all around the Offensive Guard skill. Offensive Guard basically allows you to increase your attack so long as you block a monster's attack perfectly. So this build is all about guard reactions. So for our gear, I've gone for the BANBARO set, I've gone for the BANBARO Helm Beta, BANBARO Mail Alpha, BANBARO Vambraces Alpha, BANBARO Coil Beta, and the BANBARO Greaves Beta. I've also gone for the Artillery Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Saber's Maw 2. As for the jewels, I've gone for a magazine jewel for that capacity boost, sharp jewel for that protective polish, the iron wall jewel, as well as attack jewels. I've gone for an extra handicraft jewel, an elementalist jewel, vitality jewel. One of the attack jewels had a fungiform jewel attached to it, which gives us the mushroom mancer skill. And one of the main mandatory jewels you'll need is a guardian jewel. The one I was using also had an attack jewel attached to it. Guardian jewels give you the offensive guard skill. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, which like I said is 200 health when you're on a hunt and you've taken all the relevant consumables, with an attack of 1105 with white sharpness, 5% affinity with no element, impact files, and you'll have a decent defense especially against water and ice, but you're fairly weak to the other elements. As for your skills, you'll have attack boost level 5, increasing the attack of our build, health boost level 3, artillery level 3, mushroom mancer level 3. Initially mushroom mancer was a byproduct of the gear, but comes in very useful. Mushroom mancer allows you to consume different mushrooms for different effects. For example, blue mushrooms will restore health, toadstools will increase health recovery and also cures bleeding, nitro shrooms will increase your attack power, power shrooms will increase your defense, mandragora will act like max potions, devil's blight acts like dash juice, and excite shrooms are just random in terms of their buff. On top of that, you have the most important skill, which is Offensive Guard, which increases the build's attack so long as we perfectly time our block. You have Resentment level 2, a byproduct of the gear, but can be useful. Basically when we have a red portion of health on our health bar, it increases our attack. You have Handicraft level 1, capacity boost level 1, guard level 1, speed eating level 1, again a byproduct, but speed eating can be kind of useful. It's a quality of life skill really. It allows you to consume potions and whatnot a lot faster. You have protective polish level 1 and non-elemental boost level 1, increasing the attack of our build so long as the weapon we're using doesn't have an element, or that said element or ailment is hidden, as is the case with the Saber's Maw too. So there we have it. As you can see, it is, like I said, a bit of a quirky build, not only using Mushroom Mancer, but the whole build being focused around the offensive guard. It has next to no affinity, so our main source of damage will be coming from our files, namely our super amped elemental discharge files. This is because when you perform and activate the offensive guard, it doesn't stay active for long. You only have a small window in which to deal damage with the buff that offensive guard provides. So should you block an attack, you can follow this up with a guard reaction going straight into the super amped elemental discharge, and because the offensive guard does affect the damage of our files, it means that this combined with artillery, you'll be hitting very hard with your super amped elemental discharge. But nonetheless, it's actually quite a fun way to play, especially if you're not used to or don't like the Savage Axe mode. But anyway, let's move on to our fourth and final build, which is a bit of an all-round build, but I call it the BRACHYDIOS or Agitator build. So for this you'll need the entire BRACHYDIOS set, so that's the BRACHYDIOS Helm Alpha, Mel Beta, Braces Beta, Folds Beta, Greaves Alpha, and for my charm I'm using the Focus Charm 2, and for my weapon I'm using the Volatile Blade. As for your jewels, we've gone for a little bit of a mixed bag here. First of all, you need an artillery jewel to max out our artillery skill. I've then gone for Tenderizer jewels for Weakness Exploit, a Iron Wall jewel to provide us with that guard skill. It also comes with an attack bonus to it. I've then gone for a Charger / Vitality jewel, and finally an Enhancer / Vitality jewel. This one is really down to personal preference in all honesty. So if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 130 health, which will actually be higher when you're on a hunt and taking all the relevant consumables. You have 100 stamina with an attack of 1001 with white sharpness, no affinity, although this could be potentially 50% when you're going for monster weak points and you've already tenderized them. You have a blast rating of 440 with impact files, with a strong defense especially against fire, thunder and dragon, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you'll have Agitator level 7. This is actually a byproduct of the gear, but the reason we can get it to level 7 is also because of the set bonus we're using. Basically, Agitator allows a hunter to have increased attack and affinity when a monster becomes enraged. You also have Weakness Exploit level 3, Focus level 3, Artillery level 3, Health Boost level 2. It would have been nice to get this higher, but level 2 is fine. You have Blast Attack level 2. This increases the blast attack portion of our attacks. It would have been nice to get this higher, but unfortunately we can only have so many dual slots to play around with. You have Blast Resistance level 1, a byproduct of the gear, but can be useful when it comes to defense. You have Attack Boost level 1, Power Prolonger level 1, allowing the charge blade to stay charged up for longer. You have Stamina Thief level 1, a byproduct of the gear, but can be useful especially when you're using impact files, as this can potentially tire out a monster more easily. You have Capacity Boost level 1, Guard level 1, and you also have the set bonus BRACHYDIOS Essence Agitator Secret, allowing us to have that potential maximum level 7 Agitator. So there you have it. As you can see, it is a little bit of an all-round build. It doesn't have the greatest survivability compared to some of the other builds shown off here, but it is probably the highest tier build out of the ones shown here. It is, however, very strong, especially when you consider Agitator at level 7. Agitator is also a very useful skill in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. With the introduction of the Clutch Claw, you're able to control and deal damage to a monster so long as they're not enraged. So, when that portion of the fight is occurring, this build can make use of tenderizing monsters or using the flint shot to send them into wars and damage them that way. And as soon as a monster becomes enraged and you can't really make use of the Clutch Claw that well anymore, you'll have that increased affinity and attack, increasing your DPS potential. So there we have it. Those are beginner full set builds that I have used for the Charge Blade in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now of course there are a lot more endgame mix sets to come, and as I always say, you don't have to use what is shown in these videos. Use what you want to use, as most tasks in Monster Hunter World Iceborne can be taken on with any item or gear set. Also, builds taken from the previous seasons can still work in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, at least early game. They will be fine in terms of DPS, but may lack the survivability. But anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you beginner Iceborne builds for the Charge Blade in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.